Nestled on the western edge of Port Phillip Bay, an hour and a half's drive from the deadly intrigues of Melbourne, lies Gateway City, the hub of the region, G-Town. For the last 4 decades, an uneasy peace has existed between the Anarchs and Camarilla in G-Town, their borders meeting on Bruce Street in the very centre of the city. The two sects divide the domain neatly in two. The native Anarchs, consolidated in the industrial north, have learned to tolerate Prince Aveline and her Camarilla invaders, and she in turn grants all Anarchs the right to hunt and conduct business in her waterfront domain. Anarch rabble-rousers and Camarilla traditionalists each afford their counterparts a reluctant respect. Until now. Word from Melbourne has reached the kindred of G-Town. Prince Squizzy wages a war on 3 fronts against a newly reorganised Anarch faction, Sabbat infiltrators, and the onslaught of the Second Inquisition. As refugees from both sects flood into Gateway to escape the oncoming chaos, local tensions flare, and the truce that has maintained peace since 1983 will be pushed to its limits. Welcome to Lords of G-Town, a Vampire the Masquerade 5th edition actual play podcast presented by DM Fiat Podcast, with music by Kevin MacLeod, White Bat Audio, Ivan Duch, and Jaxius Music. Now, as the sun sets on the city and the blood stirs, let's see what horrors the kindred face this night.
I'm sorry, ma'am. The doctor isn't in today. It's the 9th time Marion's been rebuffed in as many days. Every time a variation on the same excuse. Dr. Giovanni is off today, ma'am. Or Dr. Giovanni is too busy at the moment, ma'am. Or I'm sorry, his schedule's full right now, ma'am. It doesn't matter if it's a nurse or the overworked old lady at the hospital reception desk. It doesn't matter if she phones ahead to try to make an appointment or stakes out the hospital lobby, hoping to catch the doctor as he goes about his rounds. Ever since her father's brush with death, the purported false alarm that both her and nurse had been sure was the dreaded real thing, Dr. Giovanni seems to have vanished off the face of the earth. "He's a busy man, love," says her father, his cheeks flushed with colour, his voice sounding more youthful than it has in decades. "He's a miracle worker after all. I thought I was done for, but he had me right as rain. Don't worry, he'll come to check in on us eventually." But Dr. Giovanni never checks in. Nurses fuss over Marion's father for a few more days, amazed at his rapid recovery, gushing about the apparent medical miracle. Then he's given the green light to go home. He's discharged with little fanfare, and it's as if Dr. Giovanni never existed. Sam Stokes's words linger in the back of Val's mind. "I've got my ways. Never forget I'm always in control." It had been intended as a defiant proclamation in the face of Marion's onslaught, a subtle threat to not fuck with the La Sombra's interests, an assertion that the coterie, indeed, belonged to her and nobody else. Is that all we are to her? Val had wondered. Assets to control? Is that all we've ever been? She'd thought that Sam had the coterie's back. She'd taken them in as fledglings, shown them the ins and outs of vampirism, helped them find a place in the endless schemes and plots of G-Town's kindred. Val had always been grateful of that. The whole coterie had been, and yet I'm always in control. Val furiously digs through the contents of a metal filing cabinet, her figure little more than a black silhouette in a cramped, darkened office. Her smartphone, screen lit up, a call to Jeanette ready to make at the press of a button, sits on top of a waist-high pile of papers and manila folders beside her, the cool blue glow illuminating her determined face. There's something here that she's looking for, something that Sam wanted kept under wraps. She's getting close. She knows it. It had been easy enough to gain access to the La Sombra's records. A well-placed word to some unknowing mortals, a favour or two cashed in with kindred in the know. Whether she'd meant to or not, Sam had given her a story to follow, a truth to expose. Val knows she's on the verge of cracking it wide open. Val slides a single leaf of paper out of a folder and scans it eagerly. The corners of her lips twist into a smile. "Got you," she whispers in the darkness. She folds the paper neatly in half and stows it in her handbag, then reaches for her phone. "Big mistake." A low, threatening voice emanates from the shadows behind her. On the very edges of her vision, her brain registers the slightest flicker of movement. "Don't bite the hand that feeds you." Val whirls around, her left hand reflexively moving to her breast, fumbling inside her jacket for her revolver. But she's too late. The darkness itself, seemingly alive, converges on her with unnatural speed. A shadowy tendril lashes out, a wooden stake clutched in its bony fingers. "You brought this on yourself." A few nights later, an article appears on the front page of the Gateway Advertiser. "Colonial Hotel Scandal, Backroom Dealings Unearthed." Gateway's iconic Colonial Hotel is at the centre of a cloak-and-dagger financial scandal orchestrated by a Brisbane underworld personality, the Advertiser can exclusively reveal. Traditionally celebrated as one of Gateway City's premier landmarks, the heritage-listed Colonial Hotel is at least partially owned by the heiress to a disgraced Brisbane crime family, an anonymous insider has divulged. Samantha Stokes, 38, the granddaughter of notorious Queensland crime boss Anthony Stokes, currently holds a 25% stake in the hotel's ownership, the result of a secret deal brokered in the 1990s behind the backs of Gateway's real estate community. It's been an open secret for years now. A quarter of everything that hotel makes is going out of the city, the anonymous insider stated. The hotel's downplayed it as best they can to avoid the criminal association, but it would be a huge scandal if it ever got out. Originally built in 1861 and purchased by the Giovanni family in 1955, the Colonial Hotel has traditionally marketed itself as one of G-Town's last remaining family-owned establishments. And now we return to Lords of G-Town.
Welcome back to the city on the bay, everyone. It's been quite some time since you had to settle the affairs of Flick, the poor kindred child, in the literal sense of the word. G-Town has been relatively stable since then. The transitional months of April and May are drawing to a close, and winter is just on the horizon. Freezing cold fronts blow in from Cowie's Bay, and the mortals of G-Town shelter indoors, only braving the streets when it's absolutely necessary. The city is quiet, sleepy, and devoid of life. Ironically, among the kindred, things are starting to reach a boiling point. Over in Melbourne, Prince Squizzy Taylor has been deposed, destroyed by the Second Inquisition, and the Anarchs rallying behind Baron Tien Su, a child of Melbourne's previous prince, the Toreador Lytton, and the sire of G-Town's Prince Aveline have declared Melbourne an anarch state. Those living in Melbourne and those who are familiar with our Melbourne campaign would say that functionally the situation in Melbourne is simply Cam light. Cam with a few more freedoms, but over here in G-Town, word the neighbouring city has united under the Anarch banner, has started to raise tensions. Prince Aveline is cracking down. The Cam are growing increasingly stricter in their convictions as Baron Archibald does his very best to keep the Anarchs civil, holding them back from lashing out and destroying the truce that has kept the Cam and Anarchs away from each other's throats for the last 40 years. But with new Anarchs rising to power, such as the Bruja warlord Dinesh, calling for blood, calling for his Anarch brothers and sisters to take this opportunity, there's a sense in the city that things may soon start to boil over. Added to that is Pentex's pet project, the Cowie's Bay mining platform. Construction is now well underway and is slated to be completed within the month. The mortals have done their very best to rail against it, protesting in the streets. The mayor, in the pocket of the Cam, has done his very best to sidetrack and put obstacles up in front of Pentex every step of the way, but among the Ventru clan, money is power, and money is what has ensured that Pentex will soon control Cowie's Bay, will soon be dredging up secrets forgotten under the ocean floor. And what effect that will have on the city, nobody can rightly say, save perhaps for the coterie, who have just an inkling, who have heard the name Infernium, have had dealings with Pentex of their own. But that's a story for another time. As the sun goes down and the cold winter's night settles in, your blood begins to stir. The kindred of G-Town awaken to their nightly scheming and plotting, and I'd like everyone to go ahead and make a rouse check for me, to see if you awaken hungrier. Bouncer, you will be starting at hunger 2, and if you fail your rouse check, you'll go up to hunger 3, because you've had those nasty aggravated wounds from your encounter with the lupine, and only recently have you managed to employ the power of your blood to fully heal them.
This is success for me.
Success for
Mitch
you.
is hungrier.
Mitch is
Success
hungrier.
for Tig.
And I'll also have to make a stain check too.
Yeah,
Uh-oh.
you do. But
Marion gets hungrier.
Marion gets hungrier. But we'll deal with your stain check at the end of this session.
Oh,
Because,
success, so I don't get hungrier.
Would we have fed between these sessions?
Well, you always start every story at hunger 1.
It's a new story, yeah. Cool.
Yeah.
So I'm at 2.
Yeah. But Marion, as you awaken in your haven, in the suite of the colonial hotel that you have made your own, you're not the only one who awakens here tonight, and as you step out of your bedroom, you see Flick standing there in the living room, a broad smile on her face, and she waves and says, "Auntie Marion, finally!"
Hello, my sweet.
You're now essentially Flick's guardian. Have you made any particular changes to your haven to accommodate her?
How long's it been?
It's been a month, 2 months.
Okay, she probably hasn't made any major changes. She's very new to this and kind of wasn't planning for this, but I expect that a lot of the changes she's made are mental and what she can expect about the cleanliness of our home. But Flick's what, 7?
Yeah, well, eternally 7, yeah.
Yeah, well, physically at least. Yeah, I think she would have asked Flick like if there's anything that she wants.
Yeah, well, you've done your very best to accommodate her. You've picked up most of the things that Flick has requested. A handheld game system, a TV, a library of Blu-rays of shows you've never heard of that are long past your time. Plushies, toys, a dollhouse, figurines, and the living room is something of a mess. All of these things seemingly constantly in flux, scattered around everywhere. To Flick, everything has its rightful place. It's just that the rightful places in Flick's mind don't necessarily correlate with where you, Marion, have determined they should go. I'm so bored, I'm so bored, says Flick, peering down at a colouring book. She's half done colouring in a picture of a T-Rex. She seems to have coloured it rainbow. Its legs, the very tips of its toes are blue, its legs yellow, its body pink, its arms vibrant red. And whether it's because of her physical age or the fact that as a child she still possesses a sense of innocence that hasn't yet been corrupted by the beast, Flick is usually awake about half an hour before sunset. She wakes up before night, fully encroaches upon the city, and you've gotten quite used to stepping out of your bedroom, Marion, to find Flick already in the midst of messing up your haven like a maelstrom. Always complaining that she's bored. Always waiting for you to wake up so that you can head out into town, so that you can have fun together, so that you can teach her how to hunt, so that you can show her the ropes of her new existence. The bored look on her face, she gestures towards the front door of your suite, and there, sitting in front of it, is a thick yellow envelope. "The postman left something for you," she says. "I wanted to open it, but then I remembered that's a naughty thing to do."
It's a good girl. Yeah, Marion's gonna open it. So I just want to note that she would find Flick's coloring very creative. Marion definitely colored the quote-unquote correct way as a kid.
Yeah, the quote-unquote correct way, which
Green
is
grass.
mainly green as grass. You think that's meant to be the sky behind the T-Rex, except Flick's covered it in a mixture of green and yellow texture, sort of mixing together to form an unholy purple. You grab the envelope off the floor and you flip it over. There is no name on the front and no return address on the back. You're surprised that it ended up here at all, as the person who sent it hasn't even been bothered to write your name anywhere on it.
Okay, she's going to go into a different room. And then she's going to open it up. I imagine she has a very nice letter opener.
As you carry it away into your study, Flick gaze follows you, and she sort of looks in your direction, pouting, and says, "Oh, I get it. Grown-up stuff only. She goes back to contemplating the multicolored dinosaur as you grab a letter opener, slide it through the envelope's paper, and tip the envelope upside down, and a bundle of papers stapled together drop down onto your desk. At first glance, they appear to be a series of computer printouts, bank statements, a series of transactions. What's interesting to you is that they don't appear to be in your name. Rather, they're your father's. Eyes narrowing, you go down the list of transactions and find that apparently, over the last 4 weeks, your father has donated a considerable fortune to none other than the Pentex Corporation. Always in increments of $5,000, each one exactly 7 days apart. They're simply listed as donations. There is nothing indicating what they're for, what he's receiving in return, or even any sort of rationale as to why he would suddenly decide to donate such large sums of money to a giant multinational corporation. In amongst the computer printouts, there is a single piece of lined notebook paper. You can just make out that something is written on it. You can see that the light of the study allows you to sort of see through the paper and make out that someone's written something on it, but it's folded over. And so you unfold it, and written in what you would personally deem quite messy, haphazard handwriting is a single sentence. What would the Anarchs think if they knew the Hecata were trying to buy their assets?
Uh-oh.
Indeed, there's an implicit threat in that sentence. These are listed as donations, not business expenses, not attempts to buy shares in Pentex or anything like that, but if this ended up in the hands of the Anarchs, or even the Cam, any of G-Town's kindred who are currently frothing at the mouth to engage in some old-fashioned sect warfare, this wouldn't go over well. Marion, you know that the Hecata's place in this city is predicated on the fact that they remain a neutral party, do not interfere in the business of either the Anarchs or the Cam. And yet, here's your father, undoubtedly a Hecata asset, pouring tens of thousands of dollars into Pentex. Just coincidentally, as their Cowie's Bay platform project begins in earnest. You hear Flick's voice, muffled, echoing from the living room. Is it postcards?
No, honey, it's not postcards. It's just for me. Very boring stuff.
I was hoping for postcards. My daddy used to send them all the time when he went out on business. I used to put them up on my bedroom wall.
She makes a mental note to get Coterie to send postcards.
But there's a more immediate concern.
Yes, there is.
Somebody's messing with things that they should not. Somebody is playing with Marion's things. Somebody has their claws in your father.
How is my father's condition right now?
Your
Still
father is spry, energetic. You've not seen him more energetic since he was actually young, since your own mortal days. That he went from seemingly being on his deathbed to being able to walk unassisted, breathe without the help of a machine. That he's recovered to the point where you've had to convince him to not fire his home nurse. Convince him that somehow she may still be useful when he insists that he doesn't need her anymore. It's very obvious to you at this point, Marion, that this Dr. Giovanni, whoever he was, his miracle cure was most likely kindred vitae.
Yeah, that much is apparent. I think she'd actually go to him about this.
Yeah, fair enough. This is news to her. He hasn't mentioned anything about it. He hasn't mentioned anything about his affairs at all. Since he's gotten more energetic and youthful, he seems to be taking a vested interest in his finances again. But it's unusual that he would do all this without at least making you aware of it. I assume, knowing that this is your business, but that it may have implications on the status quo of the city, that you're going to put the call out, contact the rest of the coterie, and tell them to meet you at your father's estate.
We'll go with that.
Kind of situation do you tell them that you're meeting for? I'm sure you probably don't want to just call them up and say somebody is getting your father to do untoward things.
I don't think she would explain anything over communications. She'd just tell them to meet there and expect they would go.
Yeah. You've worked with them long enough. You've done enough for them that you've at least bought the benefit of their doubt. So you send text messages to Bouncer, to Valerie, to Mitch. And you take the time to call Tig in person, because there's no way he would ever get your text message in time. And tell them to meet you at your father's estate. Something important has come up. And so, about half an hour later, we catch up with the coterie as they meet at the old mid-century manor house in the upmarket southern suburbs of G-Town, where Marion's father has lived for most of his life. Once upon a time, this portion of the city was where all the wool barons and their families lived in luxury, lording it over the rest of the city. Since then, with the collapse of the wool industry, it sort of turned into just your generic sort of middle-class suburb, but Marion's father's estate still commands the attention it deserves, still dwarfs anything else in the neighborhood. Perched right there on top of a hill with a long cobblestone driveway winding through immaculately cared for grounds leading up to it. And, of course, you're separated from the estate itself by a thick set of wrought iron gates. As you assemble in front of the gates, first time the coteries met up since the Flick ordeal.
Oh, so it's past midnight.
And it's strange. The first thing you notice is that Valerie appears to be nowhere. You haven't heard much from Valerie over the last few weeks. Usually she's busy with the dealings of the court, her duties as a harpy, but at least she's usually ready to jump at the chance to solve whatever problem the coterie, whatever's fallen into the coterie's lap. And yet, it's almost as if she's ghosted you over the last few weeks, and as this sleepy, upmarket street is rocked by the sound of Tig's ute and the dogs barking, as Bouncer looks decidedly out of place, dressed in her anarch best, as Mitch silently greets the rest of the coterie with a nod, and as Marion finally pulls up in her Mercedes, leaves the engine idling in front of the wrought iron gates, and approaches the rest of you, Val is nowhere to be seen. Instead, there's someone you don't recognize. Someone who, Marion, you're quite concerned is here. You have no idea who they are, and you have no idea how they knew to assemble here in front of your father's estate. This person gives you all the impression of a butler at first. They're fairly tall, a little thin. They have piercing blue eyes, and they're wearing almost entirely black, complete with black leather gloves. There's a streak of grey hair in their otherwise jet black, well-cut and dignified hairstyle. The suit they're wearing is immaculately cut, fits their frame as if it was a second set of skin. And as you all approach the wrought iron gates, this mysterious character peers down at an old-fashioned brass pocket watch he holds in his hand. He frowns, a look of perhaps impatience on his face as he closes the lid on the pocket watch and slides it into his breast pocket. Takes the moment to adjust a handkerchief hanging out of his breast pocket. Seems to fuss over getting it just right, displaying it in a way that's perfectly symmetrical with respect to the rest of his jacket. And then he looks up at you, each of you in turn, and smiles a smile that is less a welcoming greeting and more a smug assessment of exactly what he thinks of you. Alt, go ahead. Introduce us to Wolf.
So, Wolf has been doing a lot of work for Sam for quite a long time. Picking up the pieces, doing the cleaning, as it were. Whenever there's a mess, he's the one who's called to ensure that it gets scrubbed correctly, disposed of, incinerated. Whatever it is, he gets it done, and he gets it done properly. And as the group approaches him, one by one, he greets them. You're all late. I expected you to be on time. Perhaps you haven't learned yet.
Marion,
I don't
what
believe
is
we've.
you... Yeah,
I
go
don't
ahead,
believe
Tig.
we've been introduced. Hello, my name's Tig. Is yours Rude Fuck then?
Yes, begging your pardon?
Didn't realize we were on a schedule here.
Tig Dunson. One corpse of one vigilante. Taken from the scene, incinerated correctly. Bouncer. One corpse found in dumpster, loosely closed lid. One park bench destroyed. Disassembled, discarded, body incinerated. Mitchell. One bullet found in one vigilante, removed in hospital, submitted to police for forensic investigation, correctly disposed of. And Marion. He proffers a beige little folio and presses it into her hands. I think you know exactly what this is. Sam has received one also. That's why I'm here. Your sloppiness is catching up with you, all of you.
Indeed, Marion, you lift up the brim of the beige envelope, and inside you see the same documents that were dropped off at your haven earlier this evening. The same record of your father's transactions.
Alright, where's Valerie then?
Ain't seen much of her lately.
I assume
Look,
she's
mate.
just snubbing us. Who are you? I'm sorry.
Yeah,
surprised you
all
don't
right.
know.
You listed a bunch of our listed a bunch of stuff you worked on, evidently. But you got a name it?
They call me Wolf. I'm shocked you don't know.
Perhaps it's
Mitch
a mark of
suppresses a
pride.
laugh.
Yeah, Mitch, you suppress a laugh. Wolf, really? Wolf, for his
I've
part,
heard worse names.
Wolf, for his part, doesn't seem to notice, and perhaps it's a mark of how good Wolf is at his job that you haven't heard of him. Wolf, you've been Sam's cleaner for 21 years. Every mess, every loose end, you've been there, making sure it does not come back to bite the coterie, or Sam for that matter, in the arse. When Valerie nearly pushed April off a balcony, gave her a glimpse of vampiric rage, you were there shortly after to make sure that she did not act on it. When Cross, in a fit of bestial anger, took the life of a police officer, and very sloppily, in your opinion, tried to cover its tracks, you were there to ensure that the friends of that cop weren't about to ask any questions. And tonight, you're here to, in Sam's words, help Marion clean up her mess. Oh, you remember the look on Sam's face as she called you to your regular meeting spot, that gazebo that overlooks the bay earlier this evening, as she pushed the beige envelope into your arms, snarling about how if the Hecata were going to force Marion onto her, the least they could do was make sure that she doesn't drag Sam into her petty little messes. So go, she said, dismissing you. I expect Miss Duncern will want to speak to her father. Go and wait at his estate and offer your services. And make sure she cleans up this unfortunate mess before it inconveniences either of us.
I'll wear my best suit.
And here you are, wearing your best suit, dressed for the occasion. Meeting the coterie that you have followed in the shadows for decades for the very first time. Mitch, you were going to say something?
I have multiple questions about this, your meeting of us, Wolf, but, my main question, the one that currently bothers me the most is, exactly was the vigilante thing our fault? Shouldn't it have been the responsibility of the sheriff to clean up after himself?
So you remember your run-in with the vigilantes out the front of the graveyard?
Oh shit, that one.
There's been
I
a
thought
lot
you were
of
talking about the
vigilantes
alley.
lately.
There has been a lot of vigilantes lately.
The what now?
Except there's been vigilantes and there's been hunters too, so it's different. It's different territoriality. Yeah, that's the word. That's all.
Regardless of the who, there's always a mess. I don't think you understand this, but there's a reputation about your group.
Oh, speaking of that, Tig says as he pulls out a wrinkled newspaper, "Did you clean up this mess too?" I was wondering, Sam got a picture in the paper. Holy fuck! And he shows the old newspaper, showing the connection between her and the Giovanni. Elaine said this was serious and that Sam was probably going spare. Is that taken care of then?
Wolf takes the paper and scours it.
Mentioned
Miss
this
Stokes
to you.
Miss Stokes hasn't deigned to inform me about this one. I'm sure she has other cleaners
Oh shit,
resolving
she
this as
probably
we
took
speak.
care of it. Yeah, she probably took care of it herself then. Well, somebody's on about this. Send 1-1 to them. Whatever. But, so alright. What did you need from us there, Marion? You called us all together then.
Yeah, it's not in front of you. Looking at Wolf.
Not in front of me. I've been sent by Sam to join your little group.
Because
This is a
Sam's very
personal
trustworthy
matter.
right now.
Wolf steps forward and jabs his index finger into the dossier in her hands. Did I not mention directly to you when we first met that this was sent to Sam as well and it involves her? This isn't just your problem, it's spreading. Because you're sloppy. You're all sloppy.
What is that? Listen, mate. Oh, fuck, it ain't worth it. What's them dossiers then?
Yeah, what are these documents?
Oh, you haven't told them yet?
We just met. We just got together. It's been 6
what she was
seconds.
about to tell us about.
Dale, remind me who the donations were to.
Yeah, they were made. You don't know exactly who they were made to, just that they were made to Pentex, as in the corporate entity Pentex.
Yeah, okay, thought so. Look, until I received that dossier, this would have been a simple financial issue. Now, apparently, it's fucking business. So, excuse me. My father has been making some donations to... Are you familiar with Pentex? Of course you're familiar with Pentex.
Oh yeah. Why has he been doing that then?
Well, that's why I'm here.
Alright.
I intend
to find out why he's doing that then.
Yes,
All
I
right.
intend to speak with him, because I'm sure
All
it's
right.
not a big deal.
Okay.
Simple word of guidance that maybe he should choose another outlet for his financial splurging, and this could have been solved. And yet, Sam sent this person, this interloper, to rub their nose in what you thought was personal family business, and I imagine, Marion, you're quite miffed about that right now.
She is. Everyone, can I speak to you separately, privately, for a moment?
Sure, give us a second here, Wolf. We got our own way of doing business.
Has Marion told everyone that there's essentially a blackmail note affixed to this as well?
No, she didn't mention that.
Wolf will probably do that when they get back then.
We're gonna do one of them coterie huddle things I heard about. All right.
Marion will not be huddling, but she will be private.
As they step away, Wolf brings out a little tape recorder and speaks into it. One Valerie Harding, late. Look into this further later.
Oh dear God.
In the background of the tape recording, there are
so much.
There are three dogs going, wagging their tails at the sight of someone who is completely unfamiliar with them, straining to get out of the tailgate of the ute and break their chains and rush towards Wolf, and it's probably making him a bit uncomfortable.
Now, over there is a man that was potty trained way too hard as a kid. All right, what we got here, Marion?
Okay, I don't know. This might potentially be related to my father's recovery.
All right.
All I can tell you is that I received a package in the mail this evening of a collection of financial transactions from my father to various people in Pentex Corporation, and that it came with a note implying potential risk if this information were to fall into anarch hands. Okay.
Oh, yeah, with the way Pentex is and the venture is and all of that is, and yeah, okay.
So I'm trusting
Somebody's trying to
certain
blackmail
individuals
you.
in this group, and I would appreciate your clandestine approach to this.
I ain't exactly about to go out and gossip to the whole Camarilla fucking court, so no worries, I got you back.
Thank you. I don't know who this wolf individual is, I promise. Don't think I much like him.
Samson. Honestly, he seems like her type. I can see her like retaining somebody like this.
I'm sure she has her professionals.
I mean, Val must be out busy or something, or Sam's got her on something else, so... maybe she sent Wolf as backup. Do we have any way of testing him?
I'll take any ideas. I'm not used to this.
Or, alternatively, we take him at face value, and if he proves to betray us, I will feed him to my dogs.
They seem to be very keen on this. You peer over, and you see Tig's ute just sort of parked a little bit of the ways off the gatehouse, and the dogs are straining. They're on the edge of the back of the ute. Like, if they were straining any harder, you get the feeling they would just flip the car over, and they're really keen on getting to Wolf.
As Marion breaks from the group, she says, loud enough to be heard, I suppose that would count as cannibalism, wouldn't it?
Now they're trained to fault wolves, so I mean, maybe just, takes after his namesake's a bit much, who knows? Alright.
Wolf's just not caught on to any of this, and looks with the same steely, professional eyes he has the entire time.
Alright, she's explained the situation. I think, you're just going to go visit your family. What do you need us to be? How can we help you, Marion? Any plans, or do we just go in and let you do your thing?
Presently, I'm just keeping you on notice, okay?
Alright. No worries, I can do that. I can back you
This
up.
might come to nothing. I thought it might just be good to have you on hand, so that there's nothing under the table happening here, okay?
Alright. We've got your back in. Yeah? Everyone
Thank
agree?
you.
Please, Miss Dunstone, lead the way.
Okay, we're all agreed. Nice.
So, Marion, you approach the gatehouse, and there's a speaker affixed to the stone wall that surrounds your father's estate. And You're quite used to just pressing the button, speaking your name, and having the gate guard open the gate to let you in. You're a regular visitor here, and yet, to your utter surprise, as you slap the button and static bursts from the speaker and you recite your name, Marion Duncern, you're met with a voice on the other end. So, who's that? You got an appointment with Mr. Duncern?
I hope I don't need an appointment.
I'm sorry, Mr. Duncern's orders. They ain't saying anyone tonight unless they've called ahead in advance.
Even for her daughter?
There's silence for a moment, and you hear papers rustling as if the man's checking his notes, checking some ledger in front of him. And he says, I ain't heard anything about no daughter. I thought Mr. Duncern didn't have any family, nor living anyway.
Did you ask?
Oh, I suppose I could, but, well, he'd be retiring for bed around this time, wouldn't he? And
I think you'd be wise to ask him rather soon, then.
Oh, I don't really fancy losing my job if he, says you're not supposed to be here, and, look, why don't you come back tomorrow during the day, like, when he's up and about and his schedule's a lot less,
Look, I can just show you my ID if you open the door.
Go ahead, Marion, and make me a charisma persuasion check.
Sure.
Or a resolve plus persuasion check.
2 successes.
There's rustling on the other end of the microphone, and then a click, and on the other side of the iron gates, you see at the gatehouse, about 10 feet up the road, a light switch on. A door is flung open, and the security guard cautiously makes his way down the road, his right hand clasped on, most concerning to you, a very visible sidearm hanging from his belt. The uniform he's wearing is unfamiliar, at least until he arrives at the gates, and the ambient light from the street lights illuminates a very familiar logo on his lapel, Pentex. He frowns. Oh shit, there's what, 4 or 5 of yous? I ain't letting you all in, not without an appointment, but go on, if you've got ID you can prove that you're the guy's daughter, then sure. Otherwise, clear off.
She shows her ID.
Press it against the gate. He leans forwards looking at it and he says, well, you got the same last name, and there can't be many Duncerns here in the city. Alright, sure, you're his daughter. I still gotta ask, though. Guy's retiring for the night. You didn't phone ahead, and he said he only wants to be disturbed if it's important.
It's important.
How important?
Very.
What about all yous others? He says, raising an eyebrow, gesturing over your shoulder at the rest of the coterie.
They're with me and it's relevant to the situation at hand. Please just let me in.
And they are?
Associates.
Associates.
Business associates.
Right. You with her then? He says, putting the question to the coterie.
Yes.
Obviously.
I am in her employ.
You, he says.
Yeah, he's in my employ.
How about you? He says, looking over at Tig, taking in his flannelette shirt and his ill-fitting, scuffed jeans, his dishevelled face and beard. He says, don't look like you'd be any associate of Mr. Duncern, or Miss Duncern, for that matter.
I've been working with her for For almost a year now, I have. I resent that remark.
He frowns. Right, look, sorry for the 20 questions. Just... if he's your father, I'd have expected him to tell you and all, but he's brought us in as a new security firm to handle things here stateside, and, well, he didn't mention anything about a daughter or associates or anything like that.
It's quite alright, just please let me in. It's quite urgent.
He
Pentex
shrugs.
does security now?
Pentex does everything, he says, looking over. Security, mechanics, pharmaceuticals, manufacturing.
Yes, they're quite the conglomerate.
Pesticides.
Yep, pesticides too, he says, nodding.
Seems
As I
spread all
understand
the
it,
same.
Mr. Duncern has, decided to become a loyal customer.
Please, can we just enter?
Right, fine. He raises his hands. He says, oh, geez, only his daughter could be so... He reaches into his pocket and pulls out a little control panel, presses a button on it, and then as he turns his back from you and begins to walk up the path back to the gatehouse, the wrought iron gates rumble and begin to slowly open.
Oh, and sir?
Yeah. He raises a hand, still not turning his back from you, not turning to face you again.
Just one more thing, please.
That'd be...
God fucking damn it, you really gonna do this to me, man?
He kind of brought it on himself.
Could you just look at something for me real quick? I have a document here.
Say so, he says irritably. He turns around, he says, oh, bloody fucking... say who they are, show the fucking identification. It's not that bloody hard, it's... And as he turns to face you...
We lock eyes. And she says, thank you. Now, you'll refer to me as Ms., not Miss, like you would any woman over the age of 16. And I expect you not to question me ever again.
You mesmerizing him, or are you compelling him?
I've only got mesmerized, so...
Yeah. Go ahead, make a rouse check.
Fail. She's hungrier. Worth it, though.
He looks at you for a moment, his eyes glaze over and he blinks. He shakes his head and he just gestures up the road towards the manor house and he says, all right, Miss, just up the way there, knock on the door and the house guard will attend to you. And as he turns away and begins to shuffle back into the gatehouse, you hear him once again mumbling under his breath, bloody air of importance around her, and I best not mention her to the others.
Get any good help around here. Swear to God.
Wolf looks absolutely pleased. Very, very satisfied, and there's a very, calm smile on his face. And he remarks, oh, excellently done. Fantastic. Wonderful.
Your father's
you.
got shitty taste in gods.
You make your way up the cobblestone driveway, up to the manor house, and going through the motions, Marion raps on the door. After a few moments, there's the sound of the door being unlocked from the other side, and then the thick mahogany double doors are pushed open, and your father's home nurse is on the other side. As soon as she sees you, the look of, quite frankly, bewildered confusion melts away and is replaced with a beaming smile. Oh, Ms. Duncern. Oh, I thought it was, from Pentex again.
Oh, have they been giving you problems?
Oh, I don't know what came over your father. Decided that old John wasn't good enough anymore, wanted someone more professional, and suddenly Pentex Security's here, and they've been in and out all day, trying to, establish a protocol, and...
That's professional. I'd hate to see amateur.
They're quite rude, aren't they?
She nods, and she says, I suppose, he gave you 20 questions at the gate then, did he?
21 at least.
He'd mentioned something, got a call, I managed to, overhear him when he was in a call with, his boss or something, said they were expecting someone to turn up, and that he would do his best to turn her away. Let his boss know when she'd arrived, and... Well, you know how strange your father's been the last few nights. I didn't immediately assume that they were talking about you, but knowing that he didn't just let you through... She frowns. I'll be frank, Ms. Dunson, I'm quite worried. I'm not quite sure this Dr. Giovanni is above board, if you understand what I mean. I can't quite put my finger on it, but since that false alarm that night in the hospital, your father's been... And, well, it reminds me of elder abuse, that's it. I'll just come out and say it, she says. As if somebody has got themselves close to his ear and they're telling him to do things and he doesn't know any better.
That is concerning.
And so I didn't think of it at first, but, well, I think that guard was told by his boss to be on the lookout for you specifically, and to let whoever he's working for know that you'd arrived. She frowns. Well, your father was about to retire for bed, but he did say he wanted to, he's taken up taxidermy, she says with a hint of distaste in her voice. Said he had another bird to attend to before he turned in, so he's probably still in the study.
Well, I'd love to speak with him.
I'll let him know you've arrived, she says. Before she turns away, she briefly takes stock of the rest of the coterie standing behind Marion. But she doesn't say anything. And then she makes her way across the entrance hall, flings open another set of ornate doors, and disappears into the bowels of the house.
Okay, so we can probably assume that someone's been informed of our arrival.
Or not, since you did dominate the guy into not questioning you.
Yeah, I hope that encompasses that.
Wolf pulls out his tape recorder and mutters into it. Remember to interrogate that guard, find out what he knows and who his contact is, then dispose of him.
Marion sort of looks sidelong at him and says,
It's quite what I was thinking, yes.
Tig concentrates. Then a thought occurs to him. Crikey. What if it's that Ventru fuck? One who ran off and joined the Anarchs and joined Pentex, and brought Pentex with him, ain't he? What if it's that guy?
remind me who that was?
Yeah. Elliot Dawkins, the child of the Ventru Primogen, who defected to the Anarchs and, being CEO of the local branch of Pentex, took Pentex and its assets and projects with him.
What if it's that guy?
It's a good hypothesis.
Nah, just an idea I'm working on. That's all. Alright.
A voice
So-
beams from somewhere beyond the entrance hall. Marion! Marion! Come and see me. I ain't entertaining, though, mind. Leave the entourage in the hall.
Yeah, sure. We can wait.
Mitch
Sure.
ducks somewhere to activate
Yeah.
unseen passage and
Big
kind of trails
open,
behind.
lavish entrance hall. You hide behind one of the banisters of the staircase leading up to the second floor, and go ahead and make a rouse check.
Success.
Success.
When you look
Oh,
around to see Wolf, he's already invisible.
Yeah,
Real quick.
you're also unseen passaging as well, I presume. You've just stepped
Yes.
back out the doorway into the shadow of the house in the front yard, and go ahead, make a rouse check.
Yeah, he gets hungry. That's 2 hunger.
When the home nurse returns, she doesn't even seem to register that Mitchell and Wolf seem to have vanished. She smiles at Marion and motions for her to follow. Marion, before you follow her, do you have any, I'll say, orders for Bouncer or Tig or the others?
No, she trusts them enough to.
I think it's just Bouncer and Tig left, isn't it?
Yeah.
Everyone else has
much.
disappeared.
And so Marion leaves Tig and Bouncer looking decidedly out of place in this lavish entrance hall as she follows the nurse to her father's study, unknowingly with Mitchell trailing behind her. And as she goes off to see her father, what are the rest of you doing?
Pulling out a grubby deck of cards. Wanna play some odds? He says to Bouncer.
Might as well to pass the time.
And
I ain't
Wolf?
seen nothing else to do around here, and there's probably enough cameras I don't want to throw a snake in, so, you know.
That said, actually, what is your awareness, Tig?
I believe I have a pretty good Yeah, 3.
As you stare around the room and locate a little side table where it looks like you and Bouncer may be able to sit down and play a few hands of hearts, you notice a old-fashioned rat trap sequestered away in the shadows in the corner of the room, obscured by the table and the little posh little leather footrest that's shoved next to it.
Now that's kind of bizarre. Oh. They've got a rat problem, do they? Tig will lean back and see if he can't get a hold of a rat. Well, he plays hearts poorly.
Bouncer, as Tig deals you your hand, and you absent-mindedly whistle, trying to pass the time. Is there anything anything you would like to do?
I don't really know there's much she'd want to do right now. It's just like, yeah, it's like this is Marion's father's place, so yeah, she's not going to go roaming around.
And yet there's people who work for Pentex here. So, go ahead, Tig. Make me a Feral Whispers roll. And Wolf, what are you doing?
I did not get hungrier.
Wolf is going to initially check on the guard and see if he can steal his phone. And following that, join what he can presume will be Mitchell in Marion and her father's room.
Yeah. So, Wolf, go ahead and make for me a dexterity stealth check with 1 bonus die to lift the phone. And of course, as you lift the phone, your unseen presence will break.
The dice bot's broken, so I'm trying to figure out how to do this.
Yeah, I had to break out the manual dice. Anyway,
Yeah,
that's
it
4
is
successes on the Pharaoh when
4
you're ready.
successes?
But no rush.
Alright, give me your dice pool, Wolf, and I'll roll for you.
Yeah, thank you. That's a 9d10.
And your hunger is...
2.
Ooh.
Yeah, and
Right,
Connor
so
I
decided
can
to
use
go down for
I can use another
maintenance.
bot.
Oh yeah, you use another bot. As long as you remember how much hunger you got and separate them.
That is 4 successes.
4 successes. So, you make your way back down the long cobblestone driveway towards the gatehouse, which up until now has been just like a corrugated iron shack, but since Pentex has been brought in, it looks like someone has, at the very least, attempted to do some minor construction on it. There, you can see some new supports added along the sides of the shack, and there's been some attempt to soundproof it. Some plaster inlays sort of strung up in front of the corrugated iron walls. You push open the door and step into the crowded booth, and there's just enough room for the guard to lean back in his office chair with his feet on the desk in front of him, where there's a bank of monitors. You can see Tig and Bouncer sitting in the entrance hall of the house, but the majority of the monitors seem to focus on the grounds, stopping between the driveway and the gardens and a basketball court in the back.
Actually,
yep.
I'm going to quickly adjust what he's doing. Instead of sneaking to steal the phone, what he's going to do is essentially blackjack the guy.
Yeah.
And take his phone and take the tapes or whatever from the security system.
Yeah, well, I won't ask you to do a different roll, because I think Dex Stealth would still apply. A man doesn't hear you coming. He's intently focused on the bank of monitors. He doesn't hear the door open. He doesn't hear your feet softly gliding over the concrete floor.
No, he has Silence of Death.
And then... thwack! Something hard hits him around the side of his skull, just above his ear, and he slumps to the side, nearly instantly falling out of his chair. You pat him down and take his smartphone from the pocket just under the utility belt to which his sidearm is attached, and then you look over the bank of monitors, and I will ask you to go ahead and make me an intelligence technology roll.
That's 3 successes.
3 successes. So, it looks as if the security system's only recently been installed. There are still stickers on several of the monitors, screen protectors that should have been peeled off but haven't, and things like that, suggesting that they were brought in literally within the last 24 hours or so. It's very easy for you to determine that everything the cameras are recording is being backed up on a single hard drive that's supposed to be enclosed in a cage attached to the wall, but due to the fact that this has just been installed, it's just sitting there out in the open with several cords attached to it and several blinking lights running along the side of it, indicating that it's processing something.
So Wolf is going to unplug it, place it on the ground, gently prop the man up in his chair and pull down his hat so he looks like he's sleeping, and step towards the gate to find somewhere to put the hard drive out of sight so we can take it on the way out.
Yeah. Squeeze back through the wrought iron gates, and there in the just beyond the gates, just off the road, there's a small park between the Duncern estate and the next McMansion down the street, and you carefully hide the hard drive in the shadows behind an old oak tree at the very edge of the park. And then you start the task of going through the man's smartphone. And is there anything in particular you're looking for?
Using the man's thumbprint while he's unconscious to unlock his phone, he starts scrolling through the messages and contacts, trying to see who it was that would have been contacting him earlier to disclose Marion's presence and deter her.
So, the majority of the messages don't appear to be related to work. People asking to hang out, updates on footy scores, things like that. But he received a call about 5 hours ago, which means that this would have been during the day. There's no indication as to what the call was about, but shortly after the call ended, he received a text message from the same number, and it simply says, "If she does show, let us know immediately. She should take the bait soon. At least if it's the Marion I know."
Wolf is going to be dictaphoning that information, wiping down the phone and putting it back in the guard's pocket.
Yeah. Suppose you take note of the number that it was sent from as well.
Yeah, it's all going in the voice recorder.
Yeah. As you're beginning to slide the phone back into his pocket, the screen lights up and... the phone begins to ring. And the exact same number that sent the message that called him earlier in the day blinks on the screen.
He knows better than to answer that. So he slides it back into the guard's pocket and slinks back on out.
Slinks back on out into the night. Tig, how'd you go on your feral whispers?
That would be 4 successes.
4 successes. So, you deal another hand to Bouncer, and Bouncer, what is your intelligence?
Intelligence 2.
Bouncer has so far won the last 2 or 3 hands, and Bouncer probably suspects that Tig doesn't actually know the rules to the game you're playing. As Tig seems to be preoccupied on something else. His eyes narrowed, he stares around the room until suddenly, Tig, you hear rustling coming from somewhere behind you, and you whirl around in your seat and see 6 yellow pinpricks, rat eyes gleaming in the shadows underneath the staircase.
There we go. Tig gives the command silently. Right. One of you go into the room that Marion just went in through the walls. Listen, and if things get and if she's in trouble, you let me know. Another of you go upstairs and look around for things that are strange. And the third of you go downstairs and look around for things that are strange.
The rats chitter, and then the pinpricks are swallowed in the darkness as they scurry away. Marion and Mitch are following the home nurse through the maze of sitting rooms and lavish hallways and display rooms that makes up the first floor of the house. You're led through a dining room, through a library that seems to contain almost nothing but books on taxidermy and hunting, and then as you emerge on the other side, and Marion, you recognize the door ahead of you as leading to your father's private study, you notice something extremely odd. Someone has attached some sort of device to the door, something electronic. There's two of them, one placed on the left of the doorway, the other placed on the right, each one about 1 meter tall, and they sort of remind you of metal detectors, like you'd see at an airport. As you approach them, you see the telltale Pentex logo emblazoned on the body of one of them. The nurse frowns, and she says, "Oh, don't mind those. The security firm your father hired insisted on putting them in place, and, well, I don't know what they do, but they beep loudly when we walk past."
Oh god, it's probably not going to beep when Marion goes through. um, um, well, she's just going to walk through it in such a way that the nurse stays next to her.
Yeah. So, you draw parallel to the nurse, trying to appear as if, you know where the study is, and you make a show of stepping ahead of her, as if you know where you are, and you're going to enter the study on your own, but also try to keep pace with her, and somehow she passes between the sensors about a fraction of a second after you do, and sure enough, there's a loud beep. She looks over at you, nervously smiles, and then reaches out, pushing the study door open. But Mitch, what are you gonna do?
Okay, so no one can see Mitch right now, right?
No, that's correct.
And we don't know if he would set off the sensor?
You don't. You could examine them, try to see if you recognize them. I don't know if that's in Mitch's wheelhouse, but as you see Marion and the nurse push open the doors and step into the study beyond, you see that the study is quite large, and you would be shocked if this was the only way into the room. It's probably just the main way into the room, the one that people would be most likely to use.
Let me check something real fast. Yeah, I don't know that Mitch would necessarily care enough to try to hide going through it. I don't think that he really registers that it's an
So he's just gonna follow them into the study? You rush forwards to get through the sensors before the door shuts behind Marion and the nurse. The sensor does not beep as you pass by it. Instead, a red light blinks on the one to your right. Doesn't make any sound. And then you're in the study. The doors swing shut behind you, and Marion and Mitch. You see Marion's father ahead of you. He is sitting down at a antique wooden table at the back of the room, apparently elbows deep in what you could just barely recognize as some type of bird. Its guts and bones have been removed and lie haphazardly around the table. It's like a scene from a horror movie. The wood is spattered with blood and feathers, and he currently has one of his arms inside the cavity he's made on the bird's body and is rifling around inside it. On his face is a boyish smile, as if he's a kid playing with toys, and you realise that he's wearing a khaki safari suit of all things. Marion, he smiles. Ah, my love. Sorry about the smell. It wasn't expecting you to drop in.
Doing?
Oh, I got this pheasant. I caught him earlier today, and I thought, well, you know what? It might be good if I mounted him, First one I've caught in truth, 40, 50 years. I thought it would be a momentous occasion to celebrate, don't you think?
Right. Yes.
His nurse just shoots you a look as if to say, I told you so, something's weird.
Daddy, what's up with all the security?
Oh, I thought, you noticed that. I thought, since, I'm feeling more energetic, I'm feeling younger than my years, that I might, start to make a bit of a higher profile for myself, Ernest Duncern stepping once again into Gateway City's high society, and, if my name and face are gonna be out there, I thought, some dangerous times we live in, it might be nice to make sure that, I'm prepared just in case, Duncern's had a few enemies back in the day, and just in case, I'm not expecting anyone to, try anything. I doubt they'd be that stupid, but if I'm gonna be splurging money and appearing at all the events, I thought it might be good for peace of mind.
Uh-huh. Actually, this, brings me handily to, the reason I'm visiting.
Oh? Not just a social caller? Well, I should have known you weren't going to be interested in the particulars of taxidermy.
That never caught my interest, no. Look, I'm here about, you said you've been splashing some money around.
Ah, yes. Well, I thought Dr. Giovanni did me. Well, he's a miracle worker. And I thought, I would make a donation on behalf of him. And there was this company he said that he'd like to donate to if he'd had the money. Pentex must be fairly new. Wasn't sure exactly what they do, but I tossed a few donations their way.
Quite a few things. You're aware they handle your security?
Oh, yes, it was when I made the donations, the chap on the other end of the phone suggested, he pointed out that if I was, planning on, getting back out there, back in the game, that, they also do security. And pesticides, too, I've heard.
Indeed. They do quite a few things. That was a good touch. Yes, so it was Dr. Giovanni that suggested Pentex as an investment.
Oh, well, I suppose I was going to make a donation to the hospital. After all, he works for the hospital, and he's the one who, worked out what was wrong with me, what had been getting me down, and, thanks to him, I no longer have to be hooked up to that horrid machine. I can walk, I can run, I can hunt. He gestures towards the pheasant on the table in front of him, and he said that that if I wanted to thank him, that he had some ties to these Pentex people, and he would appreciate if I splashed some money their way. Apparently, they've come upon hard times or something. It's not my place to question.
I mean, a little questioning never goes wrong. That's a little odd for a doctor, no?
Mitch would like to proc, Sense the Unseen, to see if there's anything any disciplines being used on Marion's dad.
Your Auspex. Very well. I would like you to go ahead, Mitch, and roll me a Wits plus Auspex.
I'm gonna spend a willpower and re-roll that. Okay, it's one success.
One success. As Marion idly chats with her dad, you focus on him. The light around him seems to intensify, highlighting the angles of his face, the dips and peaks in his cheeks, in his nose, the pits under his eyes. And you see, suddenly, the blood coursing through his veins, surging at a speed that human blood does not, a consistency, a potency that indicates that it's not mortal blood at all, and you realize that he is, although most likely not a vampire himself, seemingly absolutely riddled with kindred vitae, far more than you would ever give someone to ghoul them, far more than a simple drop a month. Somebody has fed him their blood multiple times in quick succession.
Did we see that he was, like, connected to something, or was that about the tech in the room?
He said that Doctor... no, he's not connected to the tech in the room as far as you could tell. But he did say that the doctor that treated him is apparently connected to Pentex, and you do recognize the Pentex logo on whatever is affixed to the door there.
Mitch can use technology while invisible, right? Like, that doesn't deactivate his...
He can, so long as he doesn't... Yeah, so long as he's not touching a living person, yeah, his unseen passage pretty much remains unbroken.
Yeah, he's just gonna text Marion real quick, like, something along the lines of basically that he's been ghouled, and this is a very severe... Like, clearly someone's been pumping a lot of blood into him.
Like, they've fed him... The amount of blood you can see pumping through his veins suggests to you that, like, someone has fed him on consecutive nights.
Yeah.
Marion, your phone vibrates. You peer down and see Mitch's message blink up on screen. Your father doesn't notice. He's focusing intently on the bird entrails in front of him, humming, whistling jovially. He looks up and sees you sliding your phone away, and he says, I tell you what, whatever that Dr. Giovanni is giving me, I should find out what company makes that, and I should buy all their stocks, because that stuff is... We just had this COVID scare. Well, these blokes will put COVID out of business.
Yes, quite.
So, love, look, I know you're a bit of a night owl, but, I get this isn't I get the sense this isn't just a social call, and you said you came here because I was splurging money, and something dawns on him, and he frowns, and he says, hang on, how do you even know I've been throwing money around?
Yes, I hope you might understand that you're smarter than that. Look, I can promise you now that I'm not spying on you, okay? But look, I don't mean to alarm you, but somebody might be, because I received some information about your spending habits today.
Do you show him the envelope?
Minus the note, yes.
You hand him the envelope, he takes it, removes the papers and peers down at them, curious.
Obviously she's passing this off purely as like business espionage is happening, not...
In fact, I will ask you to go ahead and make me a charisma subterfuge check, just to, make the facade, he is your father, he knows you better than most people.
I'm going to boost that, just to be sure. One sec. Oh, the bot's not working.
Yeah. You have to use Alt posted a link to another one. I'll just post it again because it's a bit up.
Thank you.
That's the one. Yep, that's the one I use.
Four successes.
Oh, look, he says as he takes the envelope. Yeah, you don't have to explain yourself to me. I know you're not spying. Look, you got your hands in all sorts of pies. You learned from the best. He chuckles at his own sort of... At his own idea of his own importance. And he says, I was surprised it took you this long to find out, to be honest, but... He peers down at the transactions and he says, someone sent you these. You didn't get these from your bank.
Yes, and I'm not sure who did.
Yeah, I agree.
Don't bother yourself with that, though. It's probably just a rival corporation or something.
Well, look, I don't know where you've come up, love, but in my world, when we do business, we don't like people prying when they've got no reason to.
No, that's quite the same here. I probably will be pursuing legal action, she lies. But I thought I just might bring this to your attention so I could get to the bottom of this.
You reckon it was that Pentex mob by any chance? He says.
I'm not so sure. I don't know why they would bring this to me. I mean, maybe it's just a case of information being sent to the wrong place.
Look, I can call the bank. I can reverse those donations if you think there's going to be trouble down the line, but
not just yet. I'm going to do some more digging. I have some people I can get onto this.
Alright, well, look. Cards on the table, then. I've been making these donations, and... Well... What you see outside, the gizmo on the door, and the guy in the shed out there watching the gate. Well, it turns out, making these donations made me something of a valued benefactor of this Pentex mob, right? So, in return, they gave me some shares and strongly insisted that I avail myself of their security services.
Sorry, who insisted that? My bad.
Pentex, apparently.
Yes, okay. Did they give any particular reason?
Oh, just I helped them out. I'm a shareholder now, and, well, they offered a discount. The CEO, guy by the name of Dawkins, or something like that. They said word had come down the chain from him,
Did you get a first name on this Dawkins?
First name, he thinks, rubbing blood-soaked fingers on his
Start with an
white
E?
beard. Yeah, Elliot!
Okay, yes, I'm familiar.
Yeah, except I didn't speak to him personally, and, well, as far as I understand it, it was a complete surprise to him that someone of our caliber, of the Dunstone family, was making donations, showing support to this project they've got going on, and so he wanted to, what was he saying? The man said Mr. Dawkins wanted to make sure I was properly taken care of if this was going to be the start of, an ongoing relationship.
Okay, that's helpful. Is there anything else you know at all?
Oh, well, look, I didn't even think anything of it till you showed up, love. But if you think someone's playing around where they shouldn't, well, look, I've been out of the game for quite some time. Your head's still in it, so if you take charge of this for me, well, while I learn the ins and outs of how it all works now, you have my permission to throw my name around and act in my behalf.
Oh, that means a lot, thank you.
No, look at this, he says eagerly. He pulls his hands out of the pile of feathers and entrails in front of him, and for about 1 full second, the pheasant stands there, almost as if it was alive, before suddenly its flesh wobbles and its body collapses in on itself, and it topples over, ending up as a pile of gunk and feathers. Oh, bloody hell! Your dad swears. I forgot to put the bleeding stuffing in.
Shouldn't you maybe wash it out?
Look, I'm just gonna call the guy and get him to do it. No need to dirty my hands with this, he says. He steps away from the table, and he says, alright, love, anything else I can do for you? Made enough of a mess here tonight, I think I'll just retire to bed, and get a good night's sleep.
You get some sleep, Daddy. Anything else about this should be handled by email, don't worry.
Locks eyes with you and smiles, and he says, I trust you, love. You got me back.
Next time we touch base, it's not going to be business, okay?
I'll hold you to that, he says. Maybe we'll catch you another one of these, one of this fellow's friends or family. He points at the collapsed peasant.
Maybe.
The nurse shrugs, and she leads you out of the study, and once again the sensor beeps as you lockstep with her. Beep! And behind you, as Mitch passes through it, a single red light appears for just a moment. On your way back to... Meanwhile, as you're making your way back to the entrance hall, Tig throws the cards down on the table in frustration. You haven't won a single hand against Bouncer. And...
I know I had a full house that time, but I forgot we wasn't playing that. Listen, I'm going to use the, loo. Yeah.
As you stand up and make your way to the doorway at the edge of the hall that leads into one of the many corridors of this manor house, you see the 6 little pinprick of light gleaming in the shadows under the staircase.
There we are then. I'll let him run up into me pockets, head to the loo, and then interview him one by one.
So, the rat that you sent with Marion tells you in broad strokes what happened between Marion and her father. It doesn't understand the specifics of what it's saying, but it's able to convey enough that you get the sense that somebody has forced Marion's father into making these transactions. The rat shivers with terror as it recounts the ordeal, describing that there was something about Marion's father that's bestial, predatory, and the rat wanted the entire time to get out of the room as quickly as it could. The rat you dispatched to the upper floors returns with nothing. It says that it tried sniffing around in some of the bedrooms, but the home nurse had laid rat traps out, and it was too afraid to check the small nooks and crannies. But the rat that you sent to the basement reports that a large section of the basement seems to have recently been repurposed as filtered through rat squeaks. What you interpret to be some kind of workshop. Lots of tools scattered around, boxes, crates. And the rat clutches in its tiny paws single scrap of paper screwed up. That it apparently liberated from this, what it describes as nest of the noisy humans.
I'll take that paper and unfurl it. What do we got?
You unfurl it, and Tig, you're not very smart, but you don't need Elaine to tell you that this is bad. You unfold the paper, and the first thing you see is the bottom half of the Pentex logo, the top of it torn off where the paper was pulled away. It appears to be the title page of an instruction manual. And it's for a device whose name is a random series of letters and numbers jumbled together. But then there's the first sentence or two of the description of the device itself. And it reads, the Pentex C0498X scope is designed to meet all of your defense needs, with a focus on detection of supranormal activity. And there's nothing else. That's the extent of what's on the paper.
Right. Yeah, they're watching for us now, ain't they? Tig fishes around in his leather jacket, pulls out a battered pack of Tim Tams from 2008, opens it up, hands it to the rats, and then makes himself scarce. Back to Bowser.
They converge upon the biscuits and drag the packet away, and within seconds they're gone, scattered into the shadows. You turn to face Bouncer just as you hear the sound of doors opening, and simultaneously, Wolf emerges through the front door from the grounds outside, and Marion steps into the entrance hall, presumably followed by Mitch, and accompanied by her father's nurse.
Oh, Marion. Might I have a word with you in private? thought occurred to me, and I wanted to ask about some business, real quick.
Go on.
And so, once the nurse is away for a bit, he hands her the paper. A rat found this.
So remind me what the
what?
paper was.
Yeah, so it's the title page of an instruction manual for a device known as a X-scope. It states that it is intended to detect the presence of, quote, supernormal
I knew
activity.
something was wrong with that metal detector.
Oh, you've seen it?
Yeah, it's right outside my father's room.
Did it do anything when you went through it?
Something didn't seem quite right, and so I went through in lockstep with the nurse.
Oh, alright. Well, I'm glad you did.
Mitch is still
Me too.
unseen, but if you could see him now, Kit's put a sticker in the chat of a cat with really huge eyes. And
Okay, it's TBH. The sticker is TBH.
Yeah.
Who knows what would happen if we'd done that. Well, it's fine, all worked out.
Mitch
All
clears
right.
his throat and is like, I might have stepped through by myself and noticed a light turning on, but
Okay,
you know.
so the rats found this in the basement and there's a workshop down there. I would say that if this thing has like records of video footage or anything, it's probably gonna be down there. So maybe sneakier people than me could go tend to that. And the rest of us could go out and be slowly walking back while that happens, or just sit down here and pretend to talk for a while. Let's play chess. With sneaky people looking at it. Yeah.
Wolf.
It's gotta be
Actually,
there's gotta be a chessboard around here somewhere.
as Wolf so astutely observed, we probably should talk to the guard out front about any particular phone calls he may have made.
Alright.
Of course, Wolf has already attended to this in his own way.
Oh, he has? Okay.
Does he allude to this?
Yeah, Wolf, uninvited to the conversation, steps in between Mitchell and Marion, and plays back the recording of what he found on the phone.
Yeah, a message from an unknown number. Simply says, if she shows, let us know. She'll take the bait. At least if I know Marion, she will.
They're laying for you, Marion. This is a trap for you.
If there's records of somebody going in and out of that room, unwanted and recorded somewhere, we're not leaving until it's cleaned up.
Agreed.
Alright. So... well, how do you want to play this?
Well, we don't need to worry too much about being seen. The security footage has been dealt with. So assuming nobody actually sees you personally going down there, nobody will ever know.
Marion, who do you want going down there?
I'll do with the guard. He'll listen to me.
Want to bring anyone for backup?
No, I think that she'll. Tig, come with me.
Alright then. Works with me. Nobody should be alone right now. If this is some kind of trap, we don't know if it's been sprung or what nature is. So I'm with you, and the rest of you have at least one buddy. That's my advice.
Marion crosses the entrance hall to one of the many sets of double doors. She throws it open and motions for Tig to follow her, and door closes behind them as they head off towards the basement. A few seconds after they leave, as Wolf, Mitch, and Bouncer stand in the entrance hall, deciding what to do, hear the sound of heavy footfalls coming from above. You peer up, and ahead of you, at the top of the staircase leading to the second floor are two security guards wearing the same uniform as the one outside. Their hands slowly moving to their sidearms as they peer down at you.
Gentlemen?
Bouncer, Mitch, Wolf, what do you do?
Can these guards see the entire group, like all of us?
They
or have
can
we
see-
split up?
Well, you three haven't had a chance to go anywhere yet, because Marion led Tig off, but then as soon as they were out of the room, you heard the sounds of someone running from above, and suddenly there's two security guards on the stairs. They're looking down at you, and their hands are going straight for their weapons.
Do we have a problem here?
Wolf puts up his hand to them in a kind of friendly manner and announces, "We're here on behest of the Dunstones. Put down your weapons."
They don't draw their weapons, but they don't move their hands away from the holsters either. Instead, the security guard on the left takes a step forwards, peers down at you, and says, "Sensors gone off. Blank bodies on the estate. Who are you and what are you doing here?"
We're Miss Marion Dunstone's associates. I don't know what you're talking about.
"Marion Dunstone," he says. He raises an eyebrow, exchanges a silent glance with the other guard, and then, in a swift motion, they clear their guns from their holsters, point them at you, and the security guard smiles and says, "Gonna have to ask you to come with us. No fuss now."
Wolf will agree to go with them for now. He has many tools in his tool belt to deal with this.
Mitch and
But
Bouncer.
bullets fired are a bad idea.
Is Mitch? Mitch spoke, but that doesn't.
Oh yeah, so no, you're still unseen.
I think Mitch is gonna try to go get Marion and let her know that shit's about to hit the fan.
Bouncer, what are you gonna do?
Yeah, she'll sort of like half-heartedly like throw her hands up. I'm just gonna play along for now. Just like, all right, we want you firing in the home.
Good choice, says the security guard. Right, up. Security guards each hug their backs against the sides of the staircase, creating an obvious path between them. The one with the gun motions for you to head upstairs. As you begin to follow them, Wolf, you see Bouncer give you a sidelong glance, the type that says, "I hope you know what you're doing."
Is it clear where they're asking the pair of them to go?
Just somewhere, just up, accompany them upstairs, but they want you to go first, as in you go up the stairs first, and then they come behind you with their guns drawn at your backs.
Okay, what's going to happen is Wolf is going to let them be led to wherever it is they're going to take them. And once he knows exactly which room it is and what's in the room, he's going to spring into action. Out in public is not the place.
Yep. And Bouncer, I presume you're going to do the same? Without knowing that you're doing the same thing as Wolf, I presume that's also your plan.
He's going to give her a look.
Yeah.
And hope that she understands.
Basically the same plan, yeah.
Mm.
It's like get to a little more secluded area and then basically try to knock them out.
Yeah. So, you do as the men say, making your way carefully up the stairs, and as soon as you move past them, They step out, closing the gap behind you. You hear the click of their firearms as they're trained on your backs. Up there, down the hall, says the security guard. Keep going, keep going. He jams the nose of the service revolver in the small of Wolf's back. Down there, last room on the left. Yep. Open the door, he orders. And you're in front of a single wooden door at the very end of a hallway, somewhere in the back of the house, quite far away from the entrance hall or anyone who may be watching.
Wolf's going to grab the doorknob and open it gently.
The door creaks as you slowly open it. And on the other side, there's a walk-in wardrobe. Just enough room for you to stand in there. It's been recently vacated. All of the clothing's been removed, neatly folded and stuffed into a stack of cardboard boxes that are pressed up against the back.
This is when Wolf springs into action. Using Blink, before the first guard even notices what's happening, he's right behind him, knife slitting his throat.
As you spring into action, you have just enough time to hear the guard open his mouth and begin to bark his order. In there. Front against the walls. Don't move. And then, whoosh! You activate your blink. Go ahead, make a rouse check for me, please, Wolf.
Success. He doesn't get hungrier.
Does not get hungrier. Your blink activates. Your blood surges through your body and you begin to move with unnatural speed. And you're just going to slit his throat.
Yep, straight for the kill.
Straight for the kill. No roll needed. He barely has time to tighten his finger on the trigger before you close on him. He opens his mouth to scream, but already you've clasped one hand around it, slamming your palm over his face as your other hand extracts a small silver blade from the folds of your clothing and neatly slits his throat. The other guard's eyes go wide in terror. He raises his gun, shaking in his hand, points it at Bouncer, and his finger begins to tighten on the trigger.
Seeing that, assuming it's alright, we're doing something, Bouncer's gonna use all her strength, throw herself back into the guy and try and just knock him out.
Yeah. Do you have prowess, potence 2?
I do.
Would you like to use it?
Yeah, I probably should.
Yeah. Go ahead, make a rouse check.
Oh, success, I don't get hungry.
Lovely. Go ahead and make for me a strength brawl check, adding your potence to it. That's going to be opposed by his dex firearms. He's just a security guard. He's probably not going to be great at it.
That is a messy 7.
Messy 7. See, this is why I said you don't have to make a stain check yet, because As you see his finger tighten on the trigger, and you've seen Wolf already slash the other guy's throat, your instincts kick in, your beast roars, your blood pumps. And seemingly of their own accord, you feel your limbs tensing as your body throws itself towards him. You feel your mouth open and hear a bestial snarl as you clench your fists and bring them down onto his face. There's a sickening crack. You shake your head, and the man lies at your feet, his neck broken in a 90-degree angle, jutting out to the side, his eyes wide open in terror, his mouth open, just about to scream. And that was probably more than you intended to do to him.
Yeah.
So go ahead, add a stain. Wolf, though, as far as you're concerned, Bouncer rose to the occasion.
He was mentally preparing exactly what he was going to do to kill the other guy, because you don't leave witnesses. That's not what you do. But she seems to have taken care of that, and fairly cleanly too.
Yeah. As far as Wolf saw, she just rushed forwards and with a great snarl, clenched her fists and punched straight into his neck. Once, twice. There was a sickening crack and the man's neck was broken. The witnesses have been dealt with. What do you do now?
Wolf's going to kind of rise from his knees and dust himself off, tighten up his gloves. Alright, Miss Bouncer, please inform the others that they need to make a distraction. I have to get rid of these bodies. There's no time to do it later. It has to be done now.
What? I hope you know what you're doing. And all.
Please, this is exactly what I do and exactly why I'm here. Please, go tell them. I have to go out the front. I have to get to my car. Make sure they get that guard in whatever awful shack he's working in doesn't notice. It's vital, please.
Well, you know that the others are on their way to the basement, Bouncer, so looks like it's up to you to make that distraction. What would you like to do? Try to find the others and risk Wolf being seen? Or just make your way out to that gatehouse and attend to it yourself? Either way, your beast has tasted violence tonight, and your compulsion as a Bruja kicks in.
God.
Which means that for the rest of the time you are here at the Duncern estate, your beast is going to compel you to take a stance against those who represent the status quo. Does not relent until you've gone against orders, expectations, or changed someone's mind. During this compulsion, you suffer a -2 to all dice pools that aren't directly in service of rebelling. And Wolf's just given you an order.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. At the moment, he's the closest thing to like a... like...
Yeah.
Indeed.
someone in charge, especially it's like, oh, he's been sent by Sam. So it's like, or he's... In a way, Sam at this point, yeah.
Yeah.
Fight him. Fuck him up.
Oh,
Do
no.
not brook the orders of this interloper, growls your beast. So, as this is happening upstairs, and 2 guards meet their death, Marion and Tig are traipsing across the estate grounds, their boots crunching on the cobblestone as they make their way towards the gatehouse to deal with the guard. Tig, Marion, as you approach the gatehouse, you hear a pained moan coming from inside. Ugh! Ugh! And as you approach the gatehouse, you see the guard pulling himself up in his chair, rubbing the side of his head. What the? He whirls around and sees you standing there in the doorway. Ah, Ms.
You alright? You
Ms.
alright there, mate?
Dunstan, I swear someone came up from behind and donked me on the bloody head. He grits his teeth, and his hand starts to make his way down the side of his torso towards the holster on his belt.
You alright there, mate? You see him? Who done this?
Didn't see anyone, but if I had to make a guess, I'd say it'd be a big bloke, kinda like you.
Tig holds up his hands. Why the fuck would I dunk you on the back of the head?
Because he glares over at Marion, because she told you so.
Now you're just not talking. Why the hell would... You need us to
Look,
go
I
to
didn't
hospital,
tell
mate.
him to do anything.
You're not making much sense. I think you might be got your noggin scrambled. You want a hospital?
He's confused, very obviously, shakes his head, still rubbing the red mark where Wolf blackjacked him. His other hand caressing the holster of his gun as if he's trying to work up the willpower to draw his weapon. He just says, "Look, all I know is I was told to be on the lookout for you, and I let you through anyway, and then someone's come up behind me, and... Oh, God, that smarts!"
You know, you can trust me. I don't have anything to do with this.
Be on the lookout for her? That's weird.
He sighs. Somehow I got the feeling that I can trust you, But someone walloped me something good, and... I was told to be on the lookout for her. My boss gave the description and all. Didn't give a name, didn't say who she was, just said she'd come by tonight. And if I could confirm it was her, to pass it along, and... He suddenly realizes that for whatever reason, he didn't actually tell his boss that you'd arrived. Because you dominated him. I should... He reaches for his pocket.
I don't think you should do that.
He pats his pocket, finds it empty, and then he frowns. Well, I couldn't if I wanted to. Some bastards nicked me phone!
Oh no, Wolf put his phone back in his pocket.
Oh yeah, he did, yeah, that's right.
Yeah, he just dictaphoned all the content.
Pats his pocket. Fishes out his phone. But doesn't unlock it. Instead, he just places it on the desk in front of the bank of monitors and frowns. You know, it's the strangest thing. Could be me job's worth if I don't say that I saw you tonight, and yet, for the life of me, I feel like it would be the wrong thing to do if I did.
I think you know that I have every right to be at my own father's estate.
Right. He nods. You're his daughter, after all. No reason why we should be putting you through the 3rd degree, But my boss said that you were here. If you showed up, then Mr. Duncern would be in danger, that I had to let him know as soon as possible so he could put contingencies into play, and...
Who's your boss, then?
An ex-security, of course. But we take our orders from the big man up top, Elliot Dawkins, CEO. It was him who founded the security division in the first place.
You respond directly to the CEO.
I do, yeah, as senior security staff. I'm responsible for... He trails off and he whistles out loud. Shit. I was supposed to let the guys in the house know you were here, that you were coming, and... Oh,
you can forget about all that.
Oh, I must have come down with something. I'm not thinking right tonight. He rubs his head. Everyone in the house, that they answer to me. And I'm supposed to be the go-between, Orders from the boss down the chain to me, up to the house, and... Tonight of all nights... The night you happen to show up. So one night I lose me shit. I crap the bed, fall asleep at the post.
Oh, don't worry, you've done just fine.
Are you sure? Of course, you're Mr. Duncern's daughter. We're working for Mr. Duncern, and if he's satisfied, and if you say you're satisfied, then we ain't done nothing wrong, have we?
Quite right. Don't you stress yourself, okay?
Could swear there's something I'm forgetting, and as he scratches his skull once again, you feel as if you're being watched, and then Marion, your phone vibrates.
Just give me one moment, darling.
You look down, fish your phone out of your pocket, and there's a message from Mitch. And it says, guys inside with guns. Wolf and Bouncer in trouble.
Oh, I'm gonna need to go back into the house, actually. I have another thing to attend to.
Sure.
Shall I go with you, then?
Please.
Alright.
You sure?
Wait,
I'm
this
sure
guy
there's
said that
some...
he...
Yeah.
That he's the one that all the guards inside the place answer
Yeah,
to,
answer
right?
to. He just said that, and Mitch, you would have showed up just as he said that.
I think Mitch is gonna uncloak and try to compel, and just say call them off.
You uncloak in front of him, seemingly stepping out of thin air. His eyes go wide. He instantly trembles. The fuck! And then you look him in the eyes, and what order do you give him?
Call off the guards.
The fuck? Call them off. Yeah. He reaches for his phone, slides his thumb across the screen, and you see him press a button. Raises the phone to his mouth, and he says, Strange, not answering. You're not answering.
How many guards are in there anyway?
2 upstairs, calibrating the sensors, and meanwhile back in the house as Wolf's preparing for the task of disposing of these bodies, bundling them up, finding cable ties in his kit, tying their arms together behind their backs. You can hear one of the guards' phones ringing loudly in his pocket. Dun, 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 dun. Dun, 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 dun.
Wolf always manages to produce a body bag or two from inside his jacket. You're never sure exactly where it comes from or how it's stored there, but he's got one or two.
Does he answer the phone though?
Yeah, absolutely.
Slides his finger across and answers the phone. Wolf, you hear the voice of the guard from the gatehouse. Dan, you there? I got to your phone? Apparently there's trouble. I got an order from up top. Let them go. Abort protocol.
Wolf does his best to imitate the guard's voice and says, "Yep, no worries, boss."
Wolf, go ahead for me and make a manipulation or charisma plus subterfuge check.
Beautiful. Can I take my blending in
You sure can.
specialty? Fantastic, thank you. Four successes.
4 successes. You get the impression that he sounds groggy on the other end, and you did just brain the guy less than an hour ago. If he registers that the voice he's hearing is not the correct one, his brain is too mushy at the moment to actually alert him to that fact. He just says, "Alright, good, let them go, don't worry about the boss, I'll handle it on my end, just let him go, alright? Over and out." There's a click. And back in the gatehouse, the guard lowers his phone back down onto the desk. He shakes his head again. Hang on. Why do I give the order to withdraw? That means...
Oh, forget about all that, honey. That's cloud memory.
Cloud memory. He sighs. Ms. Dunson, is there something I could do for you?
No, but quite alright. Thank you very much.
We move to Bouncer. Bouncer. Wolf has told you. Find the others. Told them to keep the guard distracted long enough for Wolf to get the body dragged safely out of the house, down the driveway, and into his car. And as you make your way down the cobblestone driveway, as the cold winter night stings on your face, your beast growls, ordering us around. Who does he think he is? Comes out of nowhere. Fuck him, fuck him. Fuck that asshole. What would you like to do?
So is this as like are Marion and Tig approaching now,
Yeah.
or are they still up at the?
They're down at the gatehouse, and as you're making your way down the path, you can see what you think is Tig's flannelette shirt visible through the doorway of the gatehouse.
Yeah. Yeah, for the moment, she's going to make her way back down to the gatehouse. Just see how those two are doing.
Tig and Marion and Mitch, you see Bouncer making her way towards you. There's a little bit of blood on her dress and on her knuckles, but she looks otherwise none the worse for wear.
Before they see Bouncer, for the record, Marion would have said something like, we're going to have a little talk about making me clean up after you, okay? Anyway, yeah.
No.
No. Yeah, that'll teach her.
No, I think that's quite alright.
Oh my God, Bouncer!
No way.
My phone's bloody ringing.
Oh god.
Oh, them off.
There we go.
You summoned the iPhone before.
Yeah. So it's clear by the look on Bouncer's face, the way her lips have twisted into a scowl, that she's fighting back the urge to frenzy, that whatever happened in the house has put her on edge.
This happens a lot.
We need to go, don't we? Yeah.
I think that might be a good idea.
Yeah.
Is what's his face still alive? Cat or whatever?
Yeah, he's inside. He's inside. He's fine. It was
All right.
apparently.
I just processed who you meant.
Yeah.
We should
apparently-
probably go, shouldn't we?
I'd imagine we'd want to leave soon. Two guards came out of an upper floor and started calling us blank bodies, so...
What? All right.
Yeah.
That's a new one on me. That sounds vaguely racist. I mean, I don't know
It-
what
it-
the
it felt a
fuck
little
that's
that way.
supposed to be.
Is Marion familiar with the term at all?
She would not be at all, no. Neither of you would. None of you would be. Although you can hazard a guess as to what it means, especially...
Oh yeah, it's apparent.
Yeah.
The way they immediately went to their weapons, can't imagine it meant mortal.
They drew down on you?
Yeah.
Okay, well, this entire place was a trap for you. That Dawkins fella was laying for you. But...
Yeah.
It's really weird. Let's get away from here and talk us over, eh? Unless there's something more we can do here, I'm thinking we'd just better go.
You hear
And
another
that wolf fellow-
groan. You hear another pained moan from the guard as he concerns himself once again with staring at the bank of monitors.
Maybe we better tell him to take the night off. On a new line of work. Maybe you better tell him. I mean, he won't listen to me. That's just my advice.
Not a bad idea.
Yeah. I imagine we probably want to leave soon, unless we think whatever's in the basement is very important.
I don't think so. I mean, we got guards. What did you do to them guards?
Flashes through your head in an instant, Bouncer. That feeling of bone being crushed under your fingers, and the knowledge that once again a mortal has lost their life at your hands, snuffed away in an instant. There was no choice. He was ordering you into a closet. He was ordering you to turn your back to him. He was probably going to execute you, but another life lost.
Sort of, like, somewhat seems to hesitate for a moment just before turning to them, just... Well, there was only two of them, we handled them.
Alright. Well, let's get out of here. That fancy pants wolf is so good at his job, he'll catch up with us whenever he feels like it.
Wait.
Yeah.
I think we should go to the basement.
Alright. Go for it.
Oh.
I ain't no good at sneaking, so if you want to, go for it.
Marion, would you like to accompany me?
Okay, but I'm also not particularly stealthy.
I mean, I don't know that we have much to worry about in that regard, considering we have 2 dead guards and one who's,
Well, he's still watching the monitors. Does the monitors cover the basement?
They do not, from what you can see. They mostly cover the outside.
Alright, well, let's just go
House.
back in and see what's taken our friend so long. Yeah, it's a ticket.
Yeah.
I
So
don't
we
know
go
that he's
back inside.
Yeah.
really know what's going on, even if he could see into the basement. I think that guy's fried at the moment.
Yeah.
He did get his head pretty brain zapped. Alright. Let's go check out the basement. What the fuck?
Make your way back up to the house, and as you push open the doors, step into the entrance hall, you see Wolf making his way slowly down the staircase. You're not sure where he got them from, but dragging behind him are 2 roughly man-sized black garbage bags, neatly tied together with thick industrial string.
Oh, you did come prepared. Well, that's handy.
I told you he had it.
Yep.
Bouncer, did you tell them?
Hmm?
Did you tell them?
Yeah, they seem to have things handled.
Oh my god, really? Look, there's 2 dead guards here. I need to get them to the trunk of my car, and we need to not be seen. I don't know what's going on with that guard at the front gatehouse, but it could be a real problem.
So you're asking for help then?
I'm asking for cooperation, unless you'd like this to go sideways.
You lot go to the basement. I'll help him sort it out.
There's a voice in the back of Bouncer's mind that maybe it would be good in the long run to tell the others to make sure that guard's distracted, but then the beast hisses, "Fuck him. Fuck him. Fuck this interloper. Give him more mess to clean up. He loves his messes. Let him clean them."
Give me 5 minutes. I'll have a distraction lined up for you.
And at this moment, down in the gatehouse, the image on the monitor switches from the driveway leading up to the house to a bird's eye view of the entrance hall. Right there in the middle of the screen is the coterie, Wolf, with them. 2 body bags clutched in his hands, being dragged behind him. "What the fuck?" whispers the guard, before his eyes roll into the back of their sockets and he slumps forwards, snoring as if he hasn't slept in days.
Right.
A
I'll
quick
go out
search.
there.
Go. Yep, Tig.
Sorry. Tig makes up a plan, gets out there, see the guy is out. I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah. You
And a
hope
quick
he.
search.
You hope he didn't see anything before he passed out. A quick search of the gatehouse reveals that there's really nothing in there save for him and the monitor bank. It looks like these monitors were connected to something. There's cords dangling off them, but someone's removed it. You remember that Wolf ducked out into the grounds when you first arrived, and you hope that maybe he is the one responsible. Well,
Tig
Mitch...
knows nothing of technology and doesn't even register it, so...
He just sees it as cords, and there's a plug on one end that's not connected to anything, but seems fine to him. He hopes that the guy didn't catch sight of Wolf dragging the bodies down the stairs before he passed out.
Probably took the VCR.
Took the VCR, of course. The rest of you conduct a quick search of the basement, and just as Tig described, it's been turned into something of a workshop. There's all sorts of electronic gizmos, silicon chips, speakers, sensors, LEDs of various kinds scattered around on a series of fold-out plastic tables. Yet more cardboard boxes branded with the Pentex logo taped up. Clear that Pentex security are in the process of installing all their stuff, and based on the sheer volume of it, they're intending to stay for quite a while. Flipping through the manual of the sensor that's been set up in front of the study, you determine that any detections it makes are recorded in the server that it's connected to, but looking around, you don't find any server, at least not one that's working. Mitch, you find the components of a server bank, still shoved away in a corner of the basement, still not fully assembled, most of it consigned to yet more cardboard boxes. And you assume that as a stopgap measure, until they were able to finally get it up and running, they probably had it feeding into the same place as whatever is connected to the CCTV. And you're pretty sure Wolf dealt with that. Anything else you'd like to do in the basement?
I mean, basically everything technologically, it seems, has been dealt with. Because the hard drive is... Wolf dealt with that, so...
And Marion, you're probably getting annoyed with the coterie overstaying their welcome in your father's estate.
Yes, I believe she would be.
Marion ushers the rest of the coterie to follow her, and you make your way once again across the grounds towards the wrought iron gates.
Okay.
And sure enough, Wolf is standing there, waiting at the bottom. He takes one glance at his little pocket watch, snaps it shut, and then slides it back inside his coat. There's no sign of the body bags.
Nicely done. Alright. So, there's two things I can think of here, Marion. One is that Elliot Dawkins is making a move against you. And two is that somebody is trying to set you and Elliot Dawkins at loggerheads.
What? No, I can infer. Yes, I've had the same concerns. Look, we should leave.
Sure. Let's.
So, this is your personal mess, to borrow Wolf's term, Marion. And speaking to your father, it seems that everything he did, all of this was put into his mind by this Dr. Giovanni. You've tried to get a hold of Dr. Giovanni. You tried to see him the night after the false alarm, waited for him the next night and the next night, tried to make appointments, and you realise now that he must have been avoiding you at the time. You were simply told that he was a busy man, a miracle worker, that you'd be able to catch up with him eventually, but for now, his schedule was just too full. It's all falling into place. You have a choice, Marion. Knowing that this is now tied up in Pentex, you can decide to chase that lead or try to track down Dr. Giovanni and get the information straight from him.
I think she'd go straight to Giovanni.
Let's meet at the hospital, you tell the rest of the coterie. Find out what this Dr. Giovanni has to say for himself. And before we move on to the hospital, how's everyone looking on hunger?
Good, I think.
Still at 1. I haven't failed a check yet.
Marion's at 3 with 8.
So would Marion like to hunt?
Yeah, I'd say so.
And Bouncer, what are you at?
Still at 2, yeah. I
At 2?
haven't failed any of my current
Yeah.
rouse checks.
Yeah, it's about time we actually introduced how Marion feeds.
Yeah.
Ooh.
So you tell the others to go ahead of you, to wait at the hospital, just scout the place around, see if they can find out if this Dr. Giovanni is there, and if so, how to get a hold of him. You'll catch up with them. Dealing with your father, dealing with the idea of someone meddling in your affairs has stirred the beast into action, and Marion, it's time to hunt. What is your predator type?
Hunt is a relative term with Marion, because she is an extortionist, and she feeds on those who are indebted to her.
You are indebted to her. You have a list in your phone. A list of names. There's always about 10 to 20 names on it. When someone gets struck off the list, they're replaced with someone else. You're always wheeling and dealing. Financial advice, a well-placed word amongst G-Town's financial elite, a monetary donation. There are lots of things that mortals want from Marion. And a lot of ways to take advantage of that and to get them to pay in blood. So Marion, as you watch the others leave, as Bouncer and Tig climb into the ute and it screams away, and the barks of the dogs recede into the darkness as Mitch summons an Uber, disappears into the back seat, and silently drives away as Wolf seemingly nods to acknowledge your order to meet at the hospital, then turns, steps around the corner, and seemingly gone without a trace. You turn your attention to hunting. You unlock your phone and see who's at the top of the list. Go ahead and describe tonight's victim.
Look, Marion, she's not above finding less influential victims, and petty loans are often the best way to go about this. And this particular individual has, taken out a loan with her, and they are just a 30-something. Frankly, she doesn't know a whole lot about their family situation, and she doesn't want to know. A little bit disheveled. Pretty normal person. He's just a customer to her.
Joseph Fulstrom. When you first laid eyes on him, you could kinda tell. Gambling problem, maybe? You don't ask questions. He wanted money, he agreed to your terms, and now you're cashing in. Go ahead, make me a manipulation plus intimidation roll.
Can do. Coercion would apply, yeah?
Yes, it would. Yes, I would say you were definitely coercing him.
Oh my god, 2 on 8 dice.
2 out of 8 dice. Very well. Because of your predator type, you have a 2-dot enemy. Whenever you roll 2 or less on your feeding roll, I will roll 2 dots in response to see if your enemy rears their head. You're lucky. 0 successes. He whines on the phone. A pitiful thing. Already? But I don't have all the money. I'm sorry, Ms. Dunson. I don't have it all. I've only made back $1,000. I'll have it all next week.
Happy to be paid in installments.
Installments, right? Yeah, installments. All right. He lists off the address of some cafe on the edge of downtown. It's at the end of an alleyway off the main road. If you didn't know that you'd been invited to meet your client here, you wouldn't even know it was a cafe. It's a cramped little more than a garage attached to one of the buildings. There's a graffiti-covered roller shutter pushed up, revealing a glass door behind. Faded stenciling, simply reading Gamers Cafe, and a faded decal of a set of dice. He's waiting for you inside, seated at a table, nursing a cup of coffee, poring over a newspaper that he's laid out, running his finger along the list of horses in tomorrow night's racing carnival, selecting them seemingly at random, and as soon as he sees you step into the cafe, the only other person in this godforsaken, urine-smelling, dimly lit dive, he knows what to do. Stands up and gestures for you to follow him.
What was his name?
Joseph Fulstrom.
Mr. Fulstrom, this is how you got into this situation, isn't it?
Yeah. He says, brushing you off with a hand. I gotta make the money back, don't I? Gotta get you to chase it.
Oh, Mr. Fulstrom.
Installments. You said installments. You said didn't have to have it all at once. And well, look, if I can get the trifecta tomorrow, if I can get Puzzle Box and Demon Bay and Port Shore,
and the odds on that are?
His face falls. 34 to 1.
34 to 1.
Look, you said you don't ask questions. You said it yourself. You're here to help me. No questions asked.
I'm just expressing concern. As a friend, Mr. Fulstrom, I just worry that you might be getting yourself into even more of a precarious situation.
No. I got a good feeling, he says. He jabs his finger at the page. See here, Puzzle Box? Puzzle Box has come first, last. 3 weeks in a row. And Demon Bay here, Demon Bay is a solid runner for second. All that money you lent me, I'm gonna put it all on Puzzle Box and Demon Bay. And look, installments. You sure it's okay? Installments, because look, this race, this is gonna be next week. I'm not gonna have any money until next week.
Well, I wouldn't want to take away your bidding money from you. So, well, we do have other methods of paying these things back.
His eyes glimmer. Yeah. I remember other methods. He goes through the motions, and the first time you asked, the look on his face, the look of shock, and somehow, despite the fact that you asked him for his blood, relief that he didn't have to pay you any money. Yeah, I know, he says. He rolls up his sleeve and holds out his arm.
I think Marion would be having these people forget, for the most part.
She does, and yet somehow they know when she says there are other ways, arrangements we can make. The response is always the same. Blank look on their face, a resigned nod, and then a wrist proffered.
Yeah, that makes sense. Okay, Mr. Fulstrom, you know we can't do this here.
He looks around. I don't see anyone. Oh, right. Yeah, I suppose things like that, the private behind closed doors. He stands up, gestures for you to follow him. My car's parked at the end of the alleyway.
That'll do just fine.
Follow him out of the cafe. He nods nervously at a very concerned-looking young woman manning the counter, the only other living soul in the establishment. She watches the two of you depart.
To clear that up as well. Mr. Fulstrom, one moment.
The woman raises an eyebrow. A friend of Mr. Fulstrom's?
Look, you just forget everything.
Her eyes glaze over and she turns around, busying herself with a dirty mug in the sink.
Service is so nosy these days.
A few minutes later, you're at the end of the alleyway in an isolated car park on the edge of downtown. Your activities concealed by the shadow of the tall buildings that surround you, the only light illuminating Joseph Fulstrom's face being the single street light on the very edge of the parking lot. His car is nothing special, an old Ford Falcon, 1990s, early to mid decade make, based on your reckoning. It needs some work. The paint is flecked with rust, the windows covered in dust and cracks and scuffs. There's a roadworthiness canary slapped on the back window that was issued several months ago. He pulls open the passenger side door and leans over, rifling through a bundle of newspapers in front of him. Yeah. Alternative arrangements. And then you're on him.
Let's get this over and done with, Joe. Now remember, and this is a mesmerize, don't make a sound.
He nods silently.
And,
up.
Carter, have the Clan Bane excruciating kiss.
Yes, they do. You sink your teeth into him. Do not make a noise. That was the order. You saw his eyes glaze. You saw the expression on his face change to stunned neutrality. The domination registered, and as your fangs pierce his skin, and the sweet, warm blood begins to roll down your throat, I would like you to go ahead and make, for me, a manipulation plus dominate check. It will be against his intelligence plus resolve, and I will give him 2 bonus dice, equivalent to your Bane severity.
Messy 7.
Messy 7.
Gonna be crossing the name out of your book.
He squirms, fights to get away, opens his... Would you like to spend a willpower?
Well, the Messy was on a dominate roll.
It was on a dominate roll.
So I don't assume she's going to be killing the
No,
man.
she's not going to be killing him.
I'll let this play out.
You let it play out. He squirms, he struggles, he silently fights, gritting his teeth, grunting in agony. You take his life force, sweat rolling down his beefy face. Don't make a word, don't make a fuss. He squirms, grunts, and then suddenly he just stops. You feel his body fall limp in your arms, and you think he's passed out, but then feeling your beast beginning to purr with satisfaction, feeling the hunger starting to subside, you retract your fangs, lick the wound to seal it, and notice he's still conscious. He's just sitting there, staring off into space, his face completely expressionless, his arms hanging limply at his sides. As you pull away, he doesn't even seem to register that you're there.
Oh, goodness. Joseph, are you alright?
His mouth hangs open. He moans incoherently. He blinks, shakes his head. No, He looks up at you. Who the hell are you? I was gonna call my bookie. Yeah.
Oh, goodness.
You're not my bookie.
Marion's going to, on a dime, pretend that she's just concerned about this man who has seemed to be passed out. Are you okay?
I think he looks around, realizes he's hunched over the passenger seat of his car.
The door was open. You didn't look like you were doing so well.
I must have passed out. He clutches his hand to his chest. It's the cholesterol. Yeah, it's the cholesterol. It's gotta be. I gotta speak to the doc about that.
Okay, well, look after yourself, okay?
He nods. Yeah, no, look after myself. Speak to the doc. Just gotta make some money. Just gotta make some money. Gotta call me bookie. Gotta call. He trails off, once again staring into space. As you walk away, you fish your phone out of your pocket, slide through the list, highlight his name, and erase it. You're not gonna get any more from him.
And she just mutters to herself, just don't understand why people make such ridiculous life decisions.
What are your convictions, Marion?
Debts must be paid is the relevant one.
Yeah. I would say, normally, you would get a stain. Perhaps you don't know it. You wouldn't know it really unless you spent the following days with Joseph Fulstrom, but something you did to him left its mark. His psyche will never be the same. For the rest of his life, he's going to forget important things about himself. Huge swaths of his life just fading away into the ether. He's going to struggle to remember where he is, who he is, why he's there. As his life goes on, the moments of lucidity are going to become shorter and rarer.
Jesus Christ.
Further and further apart. But all debts must be paid. He did owe you. We cross to the rest of the coterie as they assemble in the parking lot of G-Town General Hospital. Out there in Bayside, short distance from the waterfront and close enough to downtown that even here, the skyline of the city, the glimmering lights, the pillars of progress and civilization are a permanent fixture on the horizon. Unlike most of the utility buildings in Gateway, which were all built around the turn of the 20th century, most of them heritage listed, most of them decrepit, underfunded, and not at all fit for service, Gateway General Hospital is fairly modern. It was renovated only in the early 2010s, and what you're approaching is something that, in contrast to most of G-Town, looks state-of-the-art, an edifice of glass and concrete. There's a single ambulance parked in the parking lot, its lights turned off. It doesn't look like the night is particularly busy. And yet, as you step into the reception area, you find it absolutely filled with people waiting to be seen. Coughs and pained moans forming something of a soundtrack to your arrival. Overworked looking nurses and orderlies dashing in and out of doors and corridors that branch off from the reception area. And there's a single incredibly exhausted looking young man with shoulder-length blonde hair manning the reception counter. Thankfully, there doesn't appear to be a line.
I'll tell you, how often do we end up in hospitals?
Seems to go part and parcel with the kindred experience.
Does, doesn't it? Wait, who's saying that?
Knowing that Marion's still going to take a while before she gets here, you've got about, by your estimate, half an hour, 40 minutes to just sort of scout around. See if you can find out if Dr. Giovanni is in and secure an audience with him. At least make it so that Marion will be able to see him when she finally shows.
Well, I got nothing. Anyone got any ideas?
I can do my thing, I suppose.
Yeah, go for it.
Eschew reception entirely? Are you gonna Are you going to sneak past the reception lady? Sneak into the hospital proper? See if you can locate this Dr. Giovanni's office?
No. Wolf is going to cloud himself in invisibility, check the charts behind the desk as to which room is Giovanni's, and just proceed there, alerting the others.
Yeah. So, the reception area is pretty well lit. It's cast in that almost ever-present, harsh, white, fluorescent glow that seems to permeate everywhere in hospitals. And so you have to step outside to activate your blush of life. But as you step outside, you find yourself face to face with a couple of nurses, cigarettes lit, choosing now of all times to take smoko. And so you're going to have to find a hiding place.
I'm sure there's bathrooms, right?
There are. But with the reception area this full, do you really want to take that chance?
You could just step outside as well. Like, there are plenty of places.
So as you step outside, taking care to find a place outside of the vision of the nurses who are on smoko, I would like you to go ahead and rouse the blood to do your unseen passage.
It's a success. Still not hungry.
Still not hungry. Oh, overworked tonight, says one of the nurses. Oh, that Giovanni! Guy's only been here for a month. He thinks he owns the fucking place. Yeah, I know, says one of the nurses, offering a lighter to his friend. Never see him with the patients, though. Never see him doing his rounds. Always in his office, and yet do this, get that, do this. It's as if... I can't put me finger on it. It's as if the guy... As if the guy's been here for longer than he actually has. They take drags of their cigarettes as you step into the shadow behind the parked ambulance and fade into the darkness. Then returning to the reception, leaving the rest of the coterie to find their seats among the others.
Yep, he'll come back for them.
You stride past the overworked receptionist, duck under the little barrier that separates the reception area from the public lobby, and locate the employee register. Go ahead and make for me an intelligence investigation check.
That's 2 successes.
2 successes. You're working slowly, carefully, aware of the fact that rifling through the papers would alert the receptionist that they'd whirl around and, sure enough, see no one there, but... well, it would be a loose end. And there's one thing Wolf does not like. You carefully examine some notebooks that have been left in a pile behind the counter. Most of them charts about patients, requisition forms for medicines, an empty prescription pad, and there you see it. A list of doctors on duty tonight, their call numbers, and their officers. Down at the bottom of the list, Dr. Giovanni. But it's strange, Wolf. The other entries on the list, it looks like they were made some time ago. The ink has started to fade. Dr. Giovanni's entry, the ink is still vibrant, strong, almost almost but not quite still wet. Jet black, as if it had just been added to the page. He's on duty tonight. His office is room 203 in the East Wing, just beyond the radiology section.
With this information in tow, he's going to head back to the group and wait for Marion.
And with that, end this week's session. As Wolf seemingly materializes out of the shadows, strides between the aisles of the sick and the injured, the crying children, the loud coughing and moaning, the swearing, the people griping that they've been here for hours and still haven't been seen, and wordlessly slides into one of the plastic seats in between Tig and Bouncer. Dr. Giovanni is here, and tonight he will not escape.